I'm live, but I forgot to add the photo. Hello, everyone. A bit of a surprise here because we weren't going to do a mess, or we're not doing a mess. I thought I wanted to say some stuff that I think is kind of I should have said a long time ago. I'm going to say it now because it's all come to a head. Right. Excuse me, I'm working from notes to some extent here, so I will be reading some of this. Please don't be distracted from it. It does come from the heart. It seems to me at the moment that we, the gender critical movement, are to some extent pushing at an open door. We're winning, in other words, in lots of different areas. Stonewall have been exposed as a racket. People like Adrian Harrop are finally facing consequences. Lots of great things are happening. We're kind of pushing at an open door. And the result of that, there's a kind of negative result to that, which is that that certain resentments and rivalries and pain and all sorts of different things are rising to the surface and are causing friction within the gender critical movement. And some of my dearest friends have been affected by this, and their names are Helen Staniland and Artie Morley. One of the things I've always tried to do in this fight is try and stay out of, I don't know how to pronounce this word, so apologies, internecine battles. Internecine battles. I thought it was a lovely thing when Magdalene Burns tried to use her funeral to bring some of the warring factions within feminism together, and it kind of almost worked. But I think it's possibly a little far-fetched to think we can all come together, because because the thing about the gender critical movement is, as it grows, it gets wider and wider, and as it does so, we will encounter people with whom we disagree. We have to allow that to happen, because it's what gives this movement its strength, and it's what gives this movement its legitimacy. This huge range of people that come under the tent. No matter how many times they accuse us of being aligned with the far right, it is actually, shall we say, spectrum of people who extend from the centrist right to the far left, because this movement is obviously harmful to anyone who has a working brain, and this is being kind of uncovered. I don't know how long, for instance, people can go on ignoring the videos of Exu Lansik. She's got a very dry style, and she's got a kind of humorous and strange delivery, and I really mean all that as a compliment. But what she's exposing is so dreadful that I'm sure some people look at it and they can't even absorb the horror of what's of what she's talking about. But I don't think that people will be able to ignore that for too much longer, because what she's showing is so appalling and grotesque. So I think that door is going to keep getting easier and easier to open. And I think that this resistance movement, that may not have been born in the UK, but certainly kind of acquired maturity, and it was UK feminists who were able to organize and challenge and question and refuse to back down and refuse to be driven offline, and came up with 1,000 different strategies to get the word out when all avenues of communication were being closed to these disobedient women. And then you have, a lot of people who were silenced early in the debate: Posey Parker, Megan Murphy, Holly Lawford Smith. These people were driven from every social media platform, smeared, advised against, and they and all the women who support them dug in and channeled the Blitz spirit and started winning. It's why American TRAs hate the UK so much. Sorry, I know I spoke about an American and an Australian in the opening there, but I think those two women would disagree that it was Britain that really started the resistance movement against it all. I guess the reason I brought them up is because, well, anyway, no, I'll go on to that. So yeah, it's why American TRAs hate the UK so much, calling it Turf Island, which gives me more joy than you can imagine. And it's down to all them. It's down to everyone who's been involved, who took part in this fight, that we've come as far as we have. And even within the narrow context of feminism only, it's still a broad church. There's all sorts of different schools of feminist thought. There's all sorts of positions, some of which are uninterested in any form of compromise. I have sympathy for people who feel like that, because I respect the right of women to feel as angry about the appropriation of their lived reality as any other group, just as I would be insulted if someone danced into the room wearing a leprechaun costume and saying there's more to Ireland in this. So I think every woman has the right to feel insulted by Eddie Izzard putting on a pink beret and thinking that this makes him a woman. And I think when Eddie really thinks about this, he will realize that it's not only insulting, it's dangerous. Eddie is putting women's lives in danger, because Eddie is going along with an ideology that puts men in women's prisons, men in women's sports, and most appallingly, men in women's shelters and rape crisis centres. At the moment, I'm in touch with 2 Scottish women who are victims of rape and who feel they cannot use Scotland's rape crisis services because Edinburgh Rape Crisis currently has, as its CEO, a man who has gone on the record as saying that if a woman objects to a male person who identifies as a woman attending them, then they need to reframe their bigotry. And he also said bigots can be raped too. These are the women I care most about. And if I were to list all the reasons I entered this debate around self-ID, those women and the experiences of those women would be high up there. But it's not the only reason I'm in this debate. I'm also in it to defend my own reputation. I'm fighting for my reputation against a whole system that is determined to portray me as a bigot, from Pink News through to Wikipedia, through to Twitter, The Guardian. A great effort has been expended in framing my beliefs, so to speak, even though it's just reality, and activism in that way. So I'm not only in this for feminism or gay rights or to stop the medical abuse of children. I'm also fighting for my right to make a living. It's why when a group of career feminists tried to get me to stop my activism, I told them to fuck off as politely as I could. As I say, my priority is not making my life more comfortable for those people. My priority is those 2 women who can't access rape crisis services anymore. But what happens when you are a figure in this debate is you become a target for all sorts of different people, some on your own side. They're the ones that are always the most painful and surprising when they happen. I feel like it's so clear what we're fighting, and what we're fighting is so unbelievably terrible. It's a horrific ideology that is damaging kids and damaging women's rights, and it has to be stopped. So it's always a horrible shock when someone on your own side decides to whatever, throw you under the bus or bully you or accuse you of this or that. I usually get it whenever I have anything to do with a crowdfunder. Something about the combination of money and goodwill really annoys certain people, which is fine. As someone said about the whole thing, it's not easy allyship. And by now I know I have to try and take the rough with the smooth. And this brings me to Artie Morty. Artie has reached a somewhat high-profile position in this debate because of the work he's been doing on The Mess and on his own channel. From the very start, he has brought great insight, compassion, and humor to the show and to the debate. And the show wouldn't be what it is without him. I wouldn't do the show without him. The same is true of Helen. Helen suffered in ways that I don't want to go into. We put a brave face on things, but all of us have had pretty traumatic experiences. It takes chunks out of you, this fight. It really does. So we're all kind of wounded, and we're all shell-shocked, and we all have PTSD. We're all exhausted, and still this stupid ideology continues to chunder on and continues to take victims. Recently, I've noticed a change in Artie that has come about not because he has been facing robust disagreement, but because for a few months now he has been bullied. And worst of all, he's being bullied by people on our own side who feel that the compassion Artie shows to men suffering with dysphoria is somehow a betrayal. The latest flashpoint came when Debbie Hayton was interviewed by Stella O'Malley on her podcast. I haven't listened to the podcast yet. Sorry, Stella. She sent it to me recently. But I'm told that Debbie was typically open and honest about the compulsion that is AGP that led him to making some decisions that had a significant effect on him and his family. Debbie is someone who some people on our side simply do not trust because of statements he's made and positions he's held in the past. I think that Debbie has done an immense amount for the gender critical cause and has been an invaluable ally. If some feminists reject that allyship, that is, of course, their right, but I don't reject it. Neither does Stella, nor Helen, nor Artie. That is our right. However, it is Artie who was tormented enough by the bullying to write an ill-advised drunken tweet where he lashed out. Helen was upset by the tweet. We were going to talk about this issue today, but I thought it might be an idea to take a few days off so I could make this statement. I should have made it several months ago when the bullying against Artie began. My only defense is that I didn't realize it had become quite as bad as it had. Artie is not someone to complain or even bring it up. I could just see it. I could see it in his eyes. He's very upset. It's knocked him back. And I love Artie and I want him back to his old self. Purity spirals and bullying are what the other side does. I won't stand for it from anyone, no matter what side they're on. And I especially won't stand for bullying of Artie or Helen or anyone who appears on our show. I would ask people to turn their energies to fighting the ideology that is still gripping the imagination of so many young people and the enforcers of that ideology who continue to torment and target women online. Artie Morty is about as far from such a person as you can get. So please leave him alone. If we're going to row amongst ourselves, let's do it when we've won, or let's just win and then go our separate ways, because there's absolutely no reason we need to be friends with each other or even associated with each other beyond this fight. But one thing I do know is that the people who stood up for me, defended me, and fought alongside me during these years are my friends forever. That includes Artie Morty, Helen Staniland, and yes, Debbie Hayton. If that annoys you, then maybe the mess is just not the show for you. And you know, that's fine too, isn't it? So that's kind of roughly what I wanted to say. I'm sorry that I read some of it out, but I had to get my thoughts together. And listen, one thing I wanted to say, I see some people are saying in the thing, I didn't bully him. Look, if you didn't bully him, then this isn't about you. This is only about people who if you did bully him, then yeah, it's about you. But if you didn't bully him, it's not about you. It's very simple. We do have a mod, and I have instructed Jen, who is our mod, to start banning people who are tormenting Artie. And I think one way they did it was by saying, let Helen talk. People have been saying that a lot, and it is bullshit. Artie is very respectful of Helen. But, there's three of us here. Helen's a big girl. That's going to get me in trouble. A big woman. And she can stand up for herself, and she does. So please stop saying it in comments, or, I'm just going to start banning it, because stuff like that is just needling, and it's unfair. The other thing I want to do is again say, I'm so sorry, Artie and Helen, that I didn't talk about this earlier. I should have. I guess I always just think that things like that might settle themselves. It didn't. and the result is you know, this very upsetting and sad situation. I don't like seeing my friend like this. I love you, Artie. And Helen, and yeah, and we'll be back.